Are you considering a private school or homeschooling to get your child back to in-person learning? According to the latest stats, there's a mass exodus from public schools today. While this might sound like a good idea, there are some drawbacks to putting your child in a private school or homeschooling when they have an IEP or a 504. I know most parents across the nation are really desperate right now to get their child back into in-person learning. And with the current push from the teachers' unions to keep schools closed, it seems like schools won't reopen until next year. That's really what it looks like. They keep saying they're going to reopen, but it doesn't look good. But the question today is private school or homeschool a really valid and reasonable decision for parents to make? And that's what I'm going to be reviewing with you today. So this exodus of families from government schools continues to accelerate nationwide, and it's sparking panic among the education establishment that has miserably failed America's children, our children, especially our children on an IEP. And the trends are not just because of COVID, which is really contrary to the government claims, because the government's claiming that, as soon as COVID ends, parents are going to scramble back and re-enroll their child into public school. But that's really not the case, because as we know, IDEA today is being dismantled before our eyes, and really education as a whole the system is crumbling before our eyes as well. So public school administrators are freaking out about the plunge in enrollment, because what it means to them is that their bloated taxpayer-funded budgets are going to decrease. The public education misuse of funds is about to get real. Excuse me. Okay, I gotta take some water here. Losing my voice. So this is getting real for public officials and educators because of this disenrollment of this mass exodus of parents across the nation, because families are fleeing to the safe sanctuary of homeschooling and private schools. But really, where does this leave our kids on an IEP if we do decide to place our child in homeschooling or a private school? Because we know that our kids have services. They have a specialized academic instruction. They have very specialized teachers and service providers that is what our children need in order to be successful in their education. So please like and share this video, parents, because I want to reach as many other families as we can across the nation who are looking for this kind of information. And I would love for you to leave your comments below and let me know if you are considering to place your child in a private school or considering homeschooling, and what questions you might have and what you're coming up against in that process. So, and also I want to let you know at the end of this live, I'm going to be giving you more information on how you can communicate with me or get in contact with me to get more coaching, help and support and information regarding this subject. So I want to tell you about, as an advocate, right now I have about 35 cases that I actually speak on behalf of those parents. And then I also help many, many, many more parents through coaching and consulting practice. And so these parents, across the nation, all these parents that I talk to, as well as all of my clients, virtual schooling just is not working. Everybody knows it. So I want to give you a recent example of one of my clients on a 504. So this young girl was on a 504, and she went from junior high into high school, And that was at the beginning of this school year, the 2020-2021 school year. So she went into high school with her 504. The high school called a 504 meeting, and the high school administrator just flat out told the parents, we're going to discontinue your daughter's 504. He didn't reassess, which is required by 504 law as well as IDEA, and he failed to even offer reassessment, which means you must assess the child prior to discontinuing a 504 or an IEP. You must reassess the child to determine whether that child still is in need of a 504 or an IEP. He failed to do that. And the parents said, well, we disagree. Our child needs a 504. She's not going to be successful without these accommodations. She has anxiety. She has a learning disability in math. And she has some other issues that impede her from accessing the education and being successful. And this young girl has a very extremely high IQ, and she's very, very intelligent. The administrator said, no, absolutely not. I'm discontinuing the 504. Now, that was a complete violation of 504 ADA laws and the parent rights as well. So the parents hired me to speak on their behalf. We reinstated the 504 with even more accommodations than she had before. And I contacted the district office, the administrator that oversees the 504s in that district, and he apologized up and down to me for what the administrator of the school site did, which is a violation of the parent rights and 504 law. So, let me ask you this question, parents. Do you think that the government, and I'm not talking about teachers that are working, on the front lines. I'm talking about the government that oversees the administrators and even above them, the teachers union and the states and the nation who in charge of education. Do you think that they actually care about our children in this situation that we are experiencing now with school closure and virtual schooling? Because I think most of the answer across the nation from parents would be no, absolutely not. This child that I'm speaking of, she had to be placed on medication. I left out a piece of information. So what that administrator also did was he insisted to the parents that this young girl, she's 14 years old in the 9th grade, just starting high school, beginning 9th grade. He insisted that she come to the 504 meeting virtually and that she explain why she continued to need a 504, why she would need these accommodations, why couldn't she keep up with the class, and why she would possibly need accommodations when she had such a high IQ. She insisted that this young 14-year-old come to the 504 meeting with these teachers, all of her teachers there, the administrator and her parents, and explain why she needed a 504 and an IEP. When she was not equipped to do this, she is embarrassed because she wants to look, typical, like all the other neurotypical children. And she doesn't want to admit that she needs help and that she has these neurological disabilities or deficits. And he insisted, and the parents did not know, that they do not have to agree to allow their child to have to attend a 504 meeting or have to state why she needed accommodations and have to, basically tell them that, make a claim or make a position statement why she needs a 504. So after that, she already had depression and anxiety. Her depression and anxiety escalated, skyrocketed because of that experience, and the parents had to put her on medication because of that experience was so horrific for her, and so just humiliating for her, and her self-esteem plummeted after that experience. So in talking about, and I ask you that question, do you think that your local school district really, or the top officials, or the state, or the U.S. Department of Education really cares about your particular child? And it really looks like, no, they do not, because kids across the nation are truly suffering. Many kids have suicidal ideology at this time. Many kids have committed suicide and completed their suicide ideology attempts. And kids are in psychiatric hospitals. Kids are failing. Many of my students during the December, when report cards came out, had straight Fs and maybe a D and a C, but they're failing when these kids typically don't fail. We know that it's been a complete travesty, this whole virtual learning situation. So parents, this is a time when we see education dissolving and dismantling before our eyes. Not just IDEA, the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, but also education as a whole. It's actually dissolving before our eyes. General ed kids aren't getting an education, and absolutely kids in special ed are not receiving their IEPs. So we all have a choice here, parents. We have a choice. Are we going to educate ourselves and find our voice and find what is going to be best for our child and take action towards what is best for our child? Or will we sit back and wait and just watch as our children continue to suffer and education continues to be dismantled every day? We have a choice. Everyone has a choice. Every parent has a choice. And there's lots of information out there, and there's lots of action we can take to make sure our child continues to be educated. So, and really what I see happening in the near future is that a new educational system will be created, an educational system that really teaches our child. I'm going to be talking in the next few Facebook Lives. I'm opening up the conversation about not only virtual schooling, but also what our kids are actually learning, the curriculum. What is the curriculum and what's behind that curriculum, and how our kids have been dumbed down since the 80s with the introduction of No Child Left Behind. Then came Common Core, and today we have the 1619 Project, which is a whole different history curriculum. Look up the 1619 Project, parents, and that will be an introduction to my next coming up Facebook Lives. So let's talk about, can you get services if you pull your child from public school? If you want to place them in a private school, or you want to place them in a home school. So the answer is yes, you can, but it's going to be a battle. So you need to be prepared to do your homework and prepared for what it would take for you to continue to get your services through your local school district. So the first thing is that you need to know is that any school, public or private, that receives federal funds, they must comply with IDEA regulations regarding IEPs. So it doesn't matter if it's a public school, a private school, so that means a charter, that means a private school, and that means it doesn't matter what kind of school. If they receive federal funds, then they must comply with the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act and their regulations, okay, regarding IEPs. So they must comply if they receive federal funding. Number two, the IDEA states that no specific reference to IEPs and homeschooled children. So there's no specific regulation in IDEA that references an IEP and homeschooled children. In fact, private schools are only covered if they receive federal funding under IDEA provisions. So again, they must receive federal funding in order for you to receive services. Okay, so each individual state develops their own regulations and programs while maintaining IDEA compliance. So the IDEA, because it doesn't specifically have specific regulations regarding homeschooling, they leave it up to each state to develop their own regulations and programs while they must maintain, as I said, the IDEA compliance to those regulations. The next thing would be you need to work with a homeschool advocate. If you're going to pull your child from school to place them in private or homeschool, you should absolutely work with an advocate who knows how to do this so that you can set yourself up for success in possibly getting services. So they can help you with that. And it also absolutely depends on what state you're in, the process in which you would do that. But you are absolutely endowed to receive assessment and then an offer of FAPE. So if that private school is receiving federal funding, you are absolutely, there's no question about this, that they still must assess your child. So when it comes to triennials, they still must reassess your child. You can still ask for assessment in between a triennial, and you still have the right to ask for an IEE, an independent educational evaluation, at the district's expense, which is a private evaluation. And they also must conduct IEP meetings according to IDEA. So that's once a year, an annual IEP meeting. And if you call an IEP meeting, they must also provide you an IEP meeting within 30 days, which is the California timelines. But in other states, it might be a different timeline. So make sure to check your state for your local timelines. And then I would like to tell you that once you receive your offer of FAPE, so you have your assessments, you still have your IEP, the district must still offer you an offer of free and appropriate public education, FAPE. So here's their offer for the program that they're offering you. And then that's after you go through your assessment process or your IEE and your IEE, then you would then you would fund your child's program at your own expense. So they're not going to just say, oh, here's your services. You get the same services you had as when you were in public school. They're not going to do that. They're going to say, oh, no, sorry, you pulled your kid from public school and placed them in a private school or a homeschool. So we did the assessment, we did the IEP, we offered you our offer of FAPE, but we're not giving you any services. So then what must happen is you, the parent, must fund your child's program. But before you do that, you are going to make sure that you provide your local school district with what's called a 10-day notice that you are going to pull your child to place them in a private school. And that kicks in legal requirements that it holds the districts obligated to refund you for those out-of-pocket costs. So again, you must be willing to fight the school district if you intend to be reimbursed for your out-of-pocket program, and if you want the school district to continue to offer you the services in your IEP. Okay, so I'm going to go more deeper into some of those aspects, and as we move through the next few Facebook Lives, I'm going to be talking about, as I said, curriculum, and also more recommendations on how to pull your child from public school to place them in private or homeschooling. So there's two other options that you have and to get services, and that would be you can access your medical insurance for services, because many medical, especially if you have Medi-Cal, will provide speech and language therapy, occupational therapy, and behavior therapy, many other therapies you can get through your medical insurance. So that's an option as well if you want to homeschool your child. And another option is you should always look into your state's developmental disabilities government agencies, because they will offer services. In California, we have the regional centers, And we have many other disability services as well, in-home support services. We have the Department of Rehabilitation for vocational job coaching and job training and things like that. But in different states, they have different state developmental disability agencies. So those are two other options you can take if you want to pull your child from school and get services in a different way rather than fighting the school district. So if you would like more information about this, parents, and about this subject, I recommend you join my Special Education Parent Empowerment Network private Facebook group, because you can ask questions on that page. This is just for parents and for anyone who is their heart is in supporting children with special needs on an IEP. You must fill out the questions that I ask before I can allow you in to join. And once you do that, you're in, and I give lots of information on that page as well as resources for parents. Let's see. I just want to say that also I want to tell you the number of homeschool families has doubled from last year. And parents are taking action to protect their child from harm caused by the closing of public schools. And it shows with these numbers that homeschool numbers have doubled from last year. So that's in reference to the mass exodus that is occurring right now, and it's continuing to escalate. But the important thing is, parents, is that you have options, and it is possible to get what you need for your child. And there's many options. It's just educating yourself, doing your research, and finding your voice and taking action to assist your child to continue to receive an education today. So I'm Valerie Abrahamian, the IEP Navigator, and I help parents to get the special education program their child needs to thrive, both in school and in life after high school. And I hope to see you all next Monday at 10 o'clock a.m. Pacific time for the Advocates for Angels Next Facebook Live. Thanks, everyone, and God bless.